And hello, everybody, and welcome to the third episode of Two Guys Talking Sports. I'm Pat McDonald with Choice 102, along with Tim Birney of the Sports Reports. Tim, episode 3 already. We're having fun with this so far, and we've had a lot of great support from the community.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had a lot of people reach out. A couple people interested in advertising with us. Anybody else that's interested, drop me a message at Valley Sports Report. Also looking for people to subscribe. There's a little subscription button right below us on the screen as you're looking at it now. So feel free to subscribe to our channel, and we'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. So today's episode, we're going to be talking to Canton head football coach Tyler Sechrist. Coach Sechrist done a great job down with the Warriors. They're heading to South Williamsport to play a good Mountaineers team that just got a nice win over Athens. Canton also 1-0 on the year, so it should be a good Thursday night contest down at South Williamsport. So here's our interview with Canton head coach Tyler Sechrist. And joining us now on Two Guys Talking Sports is Canton head coach Tyler Sechrist. How we doing, Coach?
Good. I appreciate you guys having me on here. Getting into the second week, I call it the second week of the season. Some call week 1. They say first week 0, but getting to the second week, we're coming into a short week here, so it's been busy. Looking into playing Thursday night in South Williamsport.
Hey, Coach, I got to ask you, Canton's a pretty storied program. I've long considered Miller Moyer probably the best coach to ever come through this area. You played on some good Canton teams. But so in your tenure as Canton coach, you've kind of eclipsed anything Miller did in his days with, 2 semifinals in a row. Your thoughts on, the last few years, the ride you guys have been on.
Well, it's nice to be mentioned in the same area as Miller, but I got some great coaches around me. We've just had an unbelievable group of kids, just unbelievable talent, unbelievable depth. We were really blessed in Canton these last few years. The group of kids we had just worked so hard, played well together. We're football smart. I got Dave Raynard helped me on the offensive line, defensive line. Brock Kitchen does a great job. He does a great job with the offense, just making it tough for defenses. And then I am now doing the defense, but Greg Bellows, when we had those runs, he was our defensive coordinator, and he just did a wonderful job there. So I think it was a great combination of just everything coming together in Canton, and I was just blessed to be a part of that and be associated as the head coach of that.
Quick follow-up on that. Have you incorporated anything that Miller Moyer did, or do you have what kind of influence does he have on your coaching style?
Oh, yeah, of course we do. I mean, he coached me all the way through my career. He was always on top of it and always watching a lot of film and had his players prepared, and that's what I try to do. And also, we do go back to the 6 once in a while. You know what I mean? There's a lot of teams that run spread now. You don't get to run the 6, but last year against South Williamsport in week 5, we put it in and we're able to beat them there on their home field. So we still go back to the old 6-3 defense once in a while. That was the Canton defense of old.
I know we talked a couple years ago, and I was at the Daily Review, and you were on your first run to the state semis. What's it been like to be able to coach with Brock and coach his kid and your nephews and everything else, all the family that's come through there?
That's what makes Canton. I think that's what makes Canton so great. I mean, you got it everywhere, but we had such a tight family. I mean, Coach Bellows' son Weston was on the team. Cooper was there. I had all 3 of my nephews on those teams that made those state semifinal runs. I'm down to just Holden now. He's the youngest, and he's a senior this year. So next year I'll be having a little withdrawal because I won't have any of my nephews on the team. But they're just great people, and Canton is a great place to coach because Canton loves football. The administration supports football, and I'm blessed to be in the position I am.
So those were some real family battles then when you were playing Muncie there in the.
Yeah, they're real family battles because the kids from Muncie were good kids. Were actually cousins to the Ward boys we had. So we had some real battles there.
And there's not much more of a Canton background than what you have behind you right here, right? So kind of talk about that blue collar mentality down in Canton.
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot of farms here. I'm actually a farmer myself. Started teaching business at the school district here just a couple years ago, but we have the farm here, and that's our kids are tough because I think a few years ago when we went to the state semifinals the first year, we had sweatshirts made that and it said #We throw hay. And I think if you talk to the Steelton boys, they probably wouldn't know what a hay bale is, but that's just kind of what we're built upon, and we take pride in being tough and playing physical football.
Let's talk a little about this week. Obviously, a real big game this week with South Williamsport. We watched them last week against Athens. Big physical. They'll get their number one back this week, I believe. So, your thoughts on the Mounties?
Yeah, they're always tough. I mean, we've had battles with them over the years. Last year we had 2 good battles. We beat them by one touchdown there in week 5. And then they came in districts in the semifinals up to our field, and they beat us like 24-18, I think. So it was close, good battle. It's just tough. In small school football, you get some injuries, you're missing some kids. I think the first time we played, they were missing some kids, and then we got to the playoffs. We had some kids there, but they were pretty banged up. So we look for a physical battle, and we know we're going into a big game here.
Speaking of missing kids, I talked with Tim earlier about everybody's been predicting your guys' demise over the last few years, all these good groups going through. But this year, you still bring back Ben Fitch. You said Holden. You got a bunch of kids that got some experience over the last few years, right, that are filling in the gaps.
We do. You mentioned the 2 big ones there. Ben Fitch at quarterback really makes plays. Holden Ward can play all over the field. He's our playmaker. Aiden Holcomb's back. He's got a lot of experience. He's a senior, plays offensively at running back, wide receiver for us. And then on the defensive side of the ball, he's an outside linebacker. Dawson Burgess has played hard. We got Bailey Gardner back. He's only a sophomore. He's going to be in the backfield. He's a rugged kid. He got hurt in the South Williamsport game last year, so we only had him for 5 games last year. He would have had a bigger freshman year. So we just kind of pride ourselves in Canton of building a culture where we can make it a culture to work hard and win. And I know some teams would really like to put one on Canton because we've put it on them the last few years, and I can understand that. And they'd really like to do that this year. So we're going to really have to play hard, and we're going to have to stay healthy. Everybody's going to give us their best shot for sure.
Changing gears a little bit. You got the bronze helmet and the
old shoe,
rusty rail, and I don't think, my humble opinion, I don't think any of them compare to the old shoe. Talk a little bit about Troy Canton football over the years from the time you were playing. And the last 5 years has just been some epic battles between your 2 schools.
Yeah, it's been great. I wouldn't have it anyway. The last, I think 3 or 4 years at least, it's been the NTL title. The COVID year, we were lucky enough, the athletic directors made it the first game, which is a good thing they did. We went over there, strangest thing I've ever seen. I mean, nobody in the stands. And we go and come back, tie it up, and win it in overtime. You know what I mean? Just an unbelievable way. Timmy Ward was playing at that time, who's now at Rutgers with a torn ACL, runs down Troy's back from behind and makes him fumble. He didn't make it through the game, but he wanted to play his senior year with a torn ACL just to play. That's what the old shoe game means to Canton and Troy. You know what I mean? If the kids will play in it, they'll play for their town and they'll play hard. And it's like you said, there's been some really good games. Last year wasn't quite as good, but over the years, it's been the one that's been the best just because it's been for the NTL title.
It seems like you and Coach Smith have a lot of respect for each other too. I've been to the old shoe dinner a couple of times, and when you guys were going on your run, Coach Smith's like, "Hey, we're Canton fans now." And I know it's vice versa when they're on a run. You guys, the NTL kind of comes together at the end of the year.
Yeah. Coach Smith and I talk quite a bit throughout the season, and unless it's old shoe week, and then we're rooting for each other throughout the year as long as we're not playing each other. So, yeah, and we're NTL proud here in Canton. So whoever makes it to the playoffs, we're definitely rooting for them. But, yeah, we have a lot of respect for Troy and what they do. And There's a lot of crossover in Canton and Troy. Some coaches over there at Troy that were from Canton, and a lot of that. It's just two close communities.
The soccer programs are co-opted. You ever thought about the last 4 or 5 years what your programs could look like if the Troy and Canton teams were co-opted?
Well, we thought about that. Believe me, Jimmy and I have talked about that. We might have had to move up a classification or two, but I don't know. We would have. I think we had a pretty good shot at winning a state championship.
Absolutely.
When you look at the NTL this year, Troy's obviously the heavy favorite. I think anybody would admit that, right? They brought a lot back and a lot of talent back. But what do you see the rest of the NTL? I think there's going to be some good battles in there between you guys, Towanda, Athens. All the different teams.
I think you're going to see some good games. You're getting the Troy is well and above everybody else. They've got that team like we did a few years ago with a lot of athletes, a lot of depth, just a lot of experience. But after that, I think you're going to see the media, the sports writers, the fans are going to have a really good season in the NTL because there's going to be battles every week. Towanda is much improved. They've got a lot of guys back. Wyalusing is doing really well under Coach Rogers, coming in his second year. Jed Wright, I think, is the right coach in North Penn Mansfield. You just give him a couple years, that program's coming back. And Athens is going to be better. They were really young last year, and they got more experience now. So I just think that there's going to be some really good football, and there's going to be some games that could go either way. It just depends how each team plays.
Now, I know my buddy coaches youth football here in Athens, and he was telling me that Canton's the real deal in youth football right now. I know you've been involved in that over the years. How big is that to have that youth program doing well to just act as that feeder system down the line?
It's great. And we got good numbers. This year we're as low at varsity JV level. We're at 27. In junior high we got 30. In the 5th and 6th graders we got 30. So the numbers are coming back up. We take pride in our youth. We actually do a camp every year for the youth. In the first Saturday between heat acclimation when we start camp, we bring them in. I have my players run them through drills. The young kids really look up to them, and my son's in that youth program. And yeah, you don't want to look ahead too far, but you start looking at what they're doing at the youth level and the kind of athletes they got. It makes me think about going on another run. You know what I mean? So it's pretty promising there, and it's exciting because I get to stop after practice and coach them a little bit too, and I'm around the programs, and yeah, that's our future.
I was going to say, I knew your son was in the youth program. There any more Ward boys coming up, or is that you would wait another generation?
No, unfortunately, maybe if I can stay in there long enough, maybe I'll have some of their kids, but we'll see.
When you look at this team, what's going to be the identity of this year's group? Obviously, they're prideful, right? They want to keep this train moving, right, and still have success this year, even though they've lost a lot over the graduation last couple of years. But like we said, Ben and Holden, those guys, they're going to want to keep and have another successful year. What's it going to take to do that, and what's this identity of this team?
Yeah, I would say that they want to definitely win, and like you talk about Ben and Holden, that's all they've known is winning. I mean, that when they were freshmen all the way up through, I think they've only lost maybe only 8 games or something. It's under 10. Their word every year, I have the seniors pick a word. Their word for this year is persistent. They're going to have persistent effort and just keep working hard. And it's not going to come easy this year. But we still have the team. We still have the team there if we can stay healthy and we can work hard. We have good enough athletes, and our line comes around. We could be playing in the old shoe game again for the NTL championship is a possibility. So, but it's going to take that persistent effort and practice and every day to be our best.
Talk about the Thursday night games. They're more prevalent this year just because there's the lack of officials, right? What's it like for a coach to prepare for a Thursday night game, especially a big one on the road in South?
Yeah, it's going to be a big one. And Thursday nights are different, but both teams are dealing with Thursday nights, so it's a short week. We actually brought the guys in on Saturday just because it was a shorter week to watch them film. We went through some walkthroughs, did some conditioning, get a little work in just because we're at pregame again already tomorrow, so it's on top of you quick. And I don't know. It's kind of nice if we can get through this, get the win, because then we don't play till next Saturday again, the following Saturday against Athens. So it gives us kind of a long week there. But high school football is a grueling season, and you got to try to keep your kids healthy, and it's rough on their bodies when even if it's a day quicker on a game, it just they don't have that extra day to recover.
All right, that's Canton head coach Tyler Sechrist. Coach, good luck the rest of this year, and thanks for joining us here on Two Guys Talking Sports.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for all the coverage you give us, and keep things rolling.
We want to thank Canton head coach Tyler Sechrist for joining us, and we're going to talk a little NTL football in about week 2, and Canton is the first game of the week as they head down to take on South Williamsport on Thursday night. Should be a good one, Tim.
Yeah, we've talked about how Canton may not have as many bullets in the gun as they normally have had the last few years, but I think Thursday night will be a good measuring stick to see how good they are, because South looked pretty solid against Athens last week, big physical. I think, we'll see how good Canton is.
And I know South was missing their top running back, and he's going to be back. I talked to him in the press box. He was up top there helping out the film crew, and he said he popped his shoulder out during a scrimmage, and he's hoping to be back this week. So that'll be interesting. Yeah, Ben Fitch, 10 carries, 123 yards, and a score for Canton last week on the ground. Alexis McRoberts, kicker there for the Warriors, 6 for 6, so a good start for her. And, just a 42-6 win for Canton. They're going to much tougher test this week as they head to South Williamsport. Other games this week, Northwest at Athens. That should be a good night for the Wildcats to bounce back after that loss to South Williamsport, where they could have won that game easily, and now just a good evening for them to get back on track and maybe put up some big numbers.
I think so. I think you'll see Connor Davidson get a little more time to throw the football. I think you'll see his receivers being able to find a little more open spaces than they were against South. The running game should be a little more effective. I think they'll score points aplenty.
Sarah at North Penn Mansfield, like we talked last episode of one of the winnable games for Sarah to start the year here.
Yeah, the thing is with Sarah though, I mean, we say it's winnable, but they have to come out and they give up 84 points. They got to tackle. So, but I do think they can score points. Pelicano is very dangerous. Carter Green's a big athlete. They weren't able to run the ball very well against Troy, but North Penn Mansfield's not Troy either.
Yeah.
So, I think both teams, this is a game that both teams are going into thinking they can win. So the team that comes out with the win, I don't want to say it's a big game because it's too early to have, big games because it's a non-league game.
But I think the confidence level, if you get a boost here early on, it can keep the kids engaged. And like we said, Sarah's got some games coming up where if they can get on track here against Mansfield on the road, then they get Montgomery at home, Countesky Valley, and then Northwest a couple weeks later after the Muncie game. So it could get them rolling in the right direction there. Towanda at Hughesville. Towanda still without Riley Vanderpool this week. One more week to see what Reese Slater can do, the freshman quarterback, and with Coach Wecker back on the helm there after the retirement of Craig Dawsey. Towanda, I think I was telling you off air that maybe this is a good thing for Towanda. You keep Riley Vanderpool, who plays both sides of the ball, healthy for the first couple of weeks, and he'll be refreshed and ready to go week 3.
Yeah, he's, like we talked about last week, he's heart and soul for that team. So they've got to keep him healthy. If he's healthy, they win football games. This will be a tougher game for them. Hughesville, if Riley Vanderpool were playing, I think they'd win convincingly. But the freshman quarterback Reese Slater played pretty well second half, especially in the second half against Countesky Valley. So if they can go out and win this game, being 2-0 without Riley Vanderpool, there's going to be a lot of confidence coming in, coming out of the Black Knights.
Wellsboro at Muncie. I'm not really sure. Don't know much about both teams at this point in the year, but obviously Muncie's always seems like they have a good group, and Wellsboro is hurting a little bit this year, I think.
I was surprised that Muncie lost to Warrior Run last week. I thought Muncie had a lot coming back, more than I originally thought when I got looking a little deeper into things. So I was really surprised. But Warrior Run was 6-6 last year against a pretty good schedule. So they, maybe they've turned things around a little bit down there. But Wellsboro, yeah, they're hurting. They lost their best player with that car accident over the summer. So they're in a bad place right now. We'll see. They're young. As the season goes, maybe they'll get better. But this is another starting out with Montoursville is a rough spot. Even if Montoursville not what they normally are, they're still a big school and a good football program. And Warrior Run looks like they've got things on the right track. So this could be another tough week for.
Then Wyalusing heading out to CV, another winnable game for the Rams, who got a win last week to open the year. So I think Wyalusing, Coach Rogers out there for his second year, I believe, after coming back and coming over from helping out Troy there. He's also the AD at Wyalusing now. So I think he's turning things around over there. Wyalusing, obviously a traditional powerhouse years ago. When I was in high school, it was always Wyalusing, right? They were the team to beat, and they're trying to turn things around over there.
Back in the Ray Rafin days, for sure. I think, Kanowski Valley's very young. Their best players at Waverly this year from last year, and living in Waverly now, and going to school up there. But they're very young. I think Wyalusing's just got this advantage and more kids with more experience. We'll see. Kanowski Valley 24-6, pretty good showing at Towanda with a young team.
Yeah.
Even without Vanderpool. So we'll see. I think you're right. I think Wyalusing's got to be the favorite in that game.
Numbers are decent this year for CV, it sounds like.
31.
Yeah. Not bad for a small school over there. And then that's the last Friday night game. Heading on 8 o'clock Saturday night, Wilmington, Delaware, the Troy Trojans. A little different test this week than the Sarah Redskins. They're going to take on a Dover school that graduates a lot of kids. And
considering Sarah graduates,
54 last year, I think.
Kids, and Dover averages like 425 a year. So, they're going to be looking at a little different test. Dover was 9-2 last year. They lost to the top number 2 team in the state of Delaware in the regular season, and they lost in the playoffs. So, it's going to be a big test for them. But you know what? I'll take a Final Four Pennsylvania team.
Yeah.
Against the Delaware.
I mean, they're 3A in Delaware, but that's that is a top division, but there's not a lot.
Yeah.
I worked in Maine for 4 years, and the top class up there had like 8 schools in it total. Right. So it's a little different world in Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
and Delaware. You can ask Glenn Rolfe about that, I'm sure.
Yeah, right. You remember Southern Columbia on ESPN a couple of years ago. They're going down to play that school from South Carolina. Had all the prep school kids. Yeah. Kids were heading to prep school and beat them by 60 points. So Pennsylvania football a little different than New York State football or anywhere else, and unless you're talking about Ohio, Florida, or Texas, they're pretty much. I watched. I watched Bishop Gorman and somebody from Florida there go at it on TV. St. Thomas, and that did not look like a high school game to me. I thought, what Division I college we watch? It was number 1 in the country against number 5 in the country.
The one had won 5 straight state titles, I think, and Southern Columbia took a loss first week of the year. Wyomissing knocked them out. I think Southern was down 21-0 at half or something crazy, but they've done that last couple years.
2 years ago, they lost 3 of their first 4 games and came back and won.
They've done that last couple years where they've lost some games and come back with Coach Roth.
Wyomissing's not a double-A school either.
No, I think 6A.
Southern Columbia's doing what they should be doing, as they're playing bigger schools.
But Southern's coach got to wait one more game to get his 500th career win there. So, well, I'm guessing he'll get it pretty soon. And then, so that's wrapping up the high school week 2 here in Pennsylvania. Next week, we'll get to talk New York high school football, but there's some big college games this weekend. Penn State opens on the road at West Virginia. I'm thankful it's a noon game and not an 8 o'clock game because those West Virginia fans are pretty crazy. Notre Dame, a tough one on the road.
Yeah, they're going into College Station to play Texas A&M. I think, they've lost their starting left tackle. They lost one of their defensive backs to season-ending injuries. I as a Notre Dame fan, I'm just always waiting for the other shoe to drop. So, it used to be when I was younger, they were invincible. Now they can't seem to. Yeah. But I'm not sold on Riley Leonard. I got to see him come out and win a big game, and he's going to start his career with a big game against Texas A&M. So we'll see. Yeah, eventually Notre Dame's going to get a homegrown quarterback in there, right? You keep going back to. They've got some transfers, which works nowadays. Well, do you remember Lloyd Carr from Michigan? Yeah. His grandson, C.J. Carr. Okay. He looked really good in the Blue Gold game this spring, and I was kind of hoping they would just tell Riley Leonard that we're going to give the ball to him and let him go for 4 years. But
I'm sure they
apparently
had a
they're gonna-
competition.
Yeah, well, you know what? If Notre Dame loses a couple games this year and they fall out of the hunt, then I bet your Carr steps in there and he'll have the ball for the next 3 or 4 years.
I'm guessing that old Clemson quarterback that just lost the first game at Florida State might be benched here soon too if they don't win some games.
Well, at halftime they said he had completed like 60-some% of his passes, but the average pass he threw was a tenth of a yard behind the line of scrimmage or something like that. You know, so.
And the one thing about the realignment and everything there, I think there's a lot of weeks this year with great games, you know, a handful of good games. This one to start off, Clemson at Georgia. I don't think Clemson hangs with Georgia for much, but that at least it's 2 top 15 teams going at it right away.
LSU, USC should be fun. I think LSU is going to surprise a lot of people this year. And if USC stops them, that'll be the first time they've stopped anybody in several years. So,
yeah, USC, it's going to be interesting to see them in the Big Ten, obviously. And yeah, there's some weeks this year in college football that are just crazy. That said, it's one of those weeks that you better not schedule a wedding.
Right,
I won't be coming. You know, I think October 12th there's like 5 or 6 top 10 games maybe there, so it should be exciting. That's going to do it here for episode 3 of Two Guys Talking Sports. Tim, we're excited to keep it going here. High school sports in Pennsylvania underway for a couple weeks now. New York next week. We can start talking.
Hopefully next week we'll get Jason Miller and Nick Aiello in here to talk to them for our 2 shows next week. And
yeah,
they don't know anything about it yet. So guys, we're looking for you next week.
Mark your calendar there. Thanks everybody for watching. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page. You can click subscribe right below there. Two Guys Talking Sports, and we'll talk to you next week.